Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are diving into a pretty bold and, pretty controversial idea for tackling the housing market, the 50-year mortgage. So is it a lifeline for new buyers, or is it some kind of hidden financial trap? Let's get into it.
Okay, first, let's just start with the reality on the ground. If you've even glanced at house prices lately, you know the feeling. Prices are sky high, interest rates are steep, and for millions of people, that dream of owning a home just feels like it's drifting further and further away. It's a real affordability crisis out there.
So, in response to that crisis, a new idea has been floated that's been grabbing a lot of headlines. What if, instead of the standard 30-year loan, we stretch the whole thing out to 50 years? The goal, on the surface, is super simple: make buying a home more affordable right now. So let's break down the main pitch here. The big selling point is, honestly, incredibly appealing. It all boils down to just one thing: a lower monthly payment. Let's look at how the math actually works. Say you're getting a pretty typical $400,000 loan. With a 30-year mortgage, you're looking at about $2,460 a month. But if you switch to a 50-year loan, that payment drops to around $2,330. That's an extra $130 back in your pocket every single month. And that little bit of monthly savings has another really interesting effect. It actually boosts your buying power. By making the payment lower, it's estimated that a buyer could afford about $20,000 more house than they could with a traditional loan. And experts totally get this. As Todd Luong from RE/MAX points out, for first-time buyers who are already stretched super thin, that immediate relief could be the one thing that gets them in the door instead of being stuck on the sidelines. But you knew there was a but, right? What's the real cost of saving that $130 a month? Well, as it turns out, the catch isn't just big, it is absolutely enormous. All right, I want you to forget the monthly cost for just a second and look at the last column here, the total payout. With a 30-year loan, you'd end up paying around $886,000 in total. But with that 50-year loan, that number just explodes to almost $1.4 million. Let's just let that sink in. To save about $130 a month, you would end up paying over $500,000 more in interest over the life of the loan. That's more than the entire original price of the house. And this is exactly what real estate experts like Todd Luong are warning about. That staggering long-term cost. Well, it could literally trap homeowners in debt for decades, making it way, way harder to build any actual wealth from their home. And believe it or not, that massive interest payment, it's not the only problem. Financial analysts are pointing to a bunch of other pretty significant risks that are kind of hiding just below the surface of that lower monthly payment. See, this isn't just about the total money paid. It's really about your financial freedom. For decades, you'd be paying almost entirely interest, which means you build equity at a snail's pace. That can leave you house poor for a really long time, making it harder to sell, harder to build wealth, and could even mean you're still paying off a mortgage deep into your retirement years. Redfin's chief economist, Daryl Fairweather, really puts a fine point on it. After a full decade of making payments, you would have only half the equity you would have built up with a normal loan. Equity is the engine of how homeownership creates wealth, and this just slows that engine way, way down. So you might be wondering, is this 50-year idea just completely out of left field? To get a better handle on it, let's zoom out for a second and see how mortgages work in the rest of the world. And what you find is kind of fascinating. It turns out that the standard 30-year fixed-rate mortgage that we just take for granted here in the US, it's actually a global outlier. In most other parts of the world, people are using adjustable-rate loans or shorter-term loans where the rate resets every few years. And yeah, some countries take it even further. In places like Japan and Switzerland, you can actually find 100-year intergenerational mortgages that are designed to be passed down through a family. But, and this is a really important but, these are very, very niche products. They have an extremely small share of the market.
Okay, so this brings us to what a lot of economists think is the fundamental flaw in this whole 50-year plan. As Joe Berner at Realtor.com argues, making it easier to borrow money, that just pumps up demand. It doesn't magically create a single new house. And what's the result? You have more buyers chasing the same number of homes, which could just push prices even higher.
And E.J. Antoni from the Heritage Foundation basically says the same thing. Look, the problem isn't that we don't have enough financing options. The root of the whole crisis is a really basic mismatch between the supply of homes and the demand for them. To put it simply, we're just not building enough houses.
So all of this really brings us back to that one central question. In a market where affordability is such a huge challenge for so many people, is a 50-year mortgage really the right tool for the job?
Or maybe to put it another way, is the problem really about finding a clever new key to unlock home ownership? Or is the real problem that we just aren't building enough doors in the first place? The takeaway here seems pretty clear. While a 50-year loan offers this tempting little bit of short-term relief, it comes with a truly crippling long-term cost. And, maybe most critically, it does absolutely nothing to solve the core issue that's driving the whole housing crisis.